I do agree that on this one top fight, I got a double kill because of it, no? No, but it's really smart. You're really smart, Arvo.
Yo yo yo, what's up, what's up? I'm going to teach you everything about Diana builds. The main reason I'm making the guide is because of the Q versus W max skill order. I'm going to drill it into your heads why W max is so much better. It's not even close, man. You will feel like an idiot for maxing Q this whole time. As usual, I'm a challenger coach. The Diana item set will be up on Patreon, link in the description. You can instantly play League with it into your client. Also, Diana matchups guide, some extra knowledge to squeeze, and the Ulir matchups guide is already there. So let's make it simple, because I could make this very complicated. The Q-Max rank up is trash. It goes from 8 to 6 seconds, the base damage is low, and you only gain 35 damage per rank. Now if you max the W, of course the cooldown is a bit longer, but it does the same damage. 36 per rank starts at 60. So the DPS difference between these abilities, considering that the Q can also miss, so you lose all the value from that ability if it's flashed or juked, whatever, is going to be very small. You don't lose any clear speed. And the method we use is 3 points in Q to make it a bit smoother. Even if you max W right away, it's still fine, but there's just more quality of life. It's just simpler to clear at the stage in the game where Dana is trying to pick up some resources, because the clear speed is in the passive, attack speed and monster mod, and her damage overall in fights is through her AP ratios, not the damage from Q. This is a pretty garbage ability. It's mostly utility so that you use Lunar Rush. And you might be wondering, hey man, won't I be needing this cooldown to E2 targets? I mean, that is such a niche thing that it barely matters, because you're mostly just having somebody on a leash, and even if you have to wait like half a second or a second to throw the next Q, you're probably still gonna be in range, it doesn't matter. But then if you look at what Diana does in fights, how she functions, she has no escapes. She goes in, she's very committed. With this long of a cooldown early game, you will rarely get a second W cast. But once you get to 9 seconds with some ability haste, you can almost guarantee that in every single fight you are getting to your second Pale Cascade cast. So then not only you get 90 shield on your first cast, but now you add the second cast on top of that, which you wouldn't be able to get with these ratios, which is buffed to a fat 22%. It's almost 400 shield. So you're getting anywhere between 450 shield to 500 extra shield in early game skirmishes at around level 9-10. Even if it's just one fight skewing it towards your favor per game, that is so much win rate over a large sample size. And I expect when this becomes meta that Diana might even see some kind of change, because it is very tanky, very obnoxious early into the game. It's not that complicated. W-max pretty much does the same damage, you lose very little DPS. Q-max is trash, you become extremely obnoxiously tanky. Definitely a bit scary, doesn't solve all of Diana's issues in some matches. I'm not saying it's like straight up most overpowered thing, because it evens out after a few levels, but it's 100% the correct thing to do. It's crazy good. So now let's look at items. I'm going to go step by step, create a new item set. Those are used on this channel, and let's make it simple. If you are master, if you are gold, if you are Jinxie, getting coached by Dantes, it doesn't matter. You can still gain value from my videos. If you look at the AP health items, Rocket Bell, Dusk and Dawn, the common choices, don't build Liandry anymore. You just gotta be to nerf. These items are much more efficient for her for pretty much anything except killing Mundo. So when should you go Dusk and Dawn, when should you go Hexag Rocket Bell? So first of all, let's remove some confusion. You don't have to think in your brain, hey man, Dusk and Dawn is overpowered. It makes my passive proc more. Well, what does that actually mean? We have to quantify it, give it a value. So if you look at Diana's passive, let's say at level 9, when it's around the time you complete this item, 75 damage plus the 50% AP ratio, let's say 120 damage. You divide it by 3, and that means that your Dusk and Dawn gives you an extra 40 damage per proc. Alright? Then you combine her base AD, let's say level 10. Let's have a look. which is gonna be 60 damage. So your proc will deal 100 damage. Very well. Now, Rocket Bell active does a little bit more than that. Plus, with the gold difference, you can buy an extra Amp Tome. Plus, you can snowball earlier and buy even more AP, because sometimes you'll win a fight from completing this item because it's so cheap, right? So, mathematically, unless you count the attack speed, which is gonna weave in some extra damage, for Dusk and Dawn to be better than Rocket Belt, you have to play against champions that allow you to proc this item bare minimum twice, but ideally 3+. So this is gonna be bruisers and tanks, because Ana has pretty high burst damage, and Rocket Belt not only is pretty much the cheapest spike in the game for, you know, assassins, fighters, whatever, but it gives you very strong target access since Diana has no mobility. She has to be in range of someone to click on them. And when you combine this with a red jungle item, then it becomes very apparent that this is a choice that you really want, because it procs the slow, it allows you to get a lot more picks, and therefore you'll print more gold. It doesn't matter that Dusk and Dawn is a solid item on Diana on paper. You have to really look at which one is better. And if I were playing Dusk and Dawn, I'm looking to stat check people and scale a bit more into other items once the passive numbers ramp up with levels and AP, so I'll go the green pet. But you can buy either of them. This is just gonna be extra obnoxious with the W max. You will become much tankier than any Diana you have ever seen. So when you play against squishy champions, you need more backline reach. You can dodge abilities such as Yone R, Kiana R, Malphite R, I always talk about this. With Rocket Belt, go for it. Pretty simple. Now, there's also another item if you want to be an assassin, or just care about more burst in general. Think about, you might be solo AP. You might have to really kill some priority targets that your team has not a lot of access to, like a Caitlyn or something, which has a bit more range. Or there's a Volibear or Olaf, those champions can out-sustain you. Mordekaiser. You don't want to take like a super long fight with them, so it might be wise to go Lichbane and other burst items, play a more assassin playstyle with your setup. Why Lichbane? It still has attack speed on the passive, can give you like an extra dagger of value, really high ratios with 100 AP. Why not Storm Surge or something? It's just gonna be more consistent because you're still auto-attacking in kind of like any Diana combo, and it does make your clear easier. Now when it comes to the build pad, always get a Blasting Wand, then you're going to Kindle Gem, Shin. If you don't get Blasting Wand in the build pad of these items, you're gonna be homeless on future recalls, because you will not have much AP. Unless you get kills, you will not be able to afford the Blasting Wand. So let's say you get Ether Wisp, what are you gonna get on the next recall? If you wanna go to base, well, a Glowing Mode, maybe a Dark Seal, it's not a good time. Same thing here, just focus on the AP. Let's have a look at runes, and then we're gonna continue with items. Pretty simple, you wanna go Conqueror because she has a lot of abilities that proc instantly, so this stacks quickly, especially with her attack speed, and she has really good ratios, so can benefit from the AP. She's a sustained fighter. Makes total sense. Triumph, because these options are redundant in the jungle. Legend Haste is simply more consistent than Alacrity. This not only gives you a bit more DPS, but also utility, survivability. Works very well with W max. And when you're a champion with super high attack speed, since Alacrity is a flat value, it just works with your attack speed ratio, you are not gaining much DPS increase, because you already have a lot of attack speed. That's just how the game works. Here I usually prefer Cut Down, because you can often engage on full health targets in skirmishes and stuff like that. Even poking with Q at different points of the game, I guess this has some value. They are all fine, depending on what you want to do, so feel free to explore the others. Now when it comes to the secondaries, Triple Tonic, she has pretty good value from the skill points. Nothing wrong with this, it's just a very solid rune because you get the early gold, which can allow you to buy a Blasting One if you want to insta reset, or if you don't get the Scuttle Crab. Level 6 gives you more AP, makes you stronger. It's just, at this point we already know Triple Tonic is pretty strong. Magical Footer is important because Diana doesn't have issues gap closing in early game. The E is pretty long range, and her base MS is high, so she can get away with boots pretty easily. Or without boots, with magical footwear. Also, on the other hand, you don't really need Cosmic Insight on this champion, because you are not needed to use a lot of smites to clear. You can hold smites because her DPS ramp is very strong in mid-game. You are also not flash reliant like a Rek'Sai or Lee Sin or something. So you don't really care about Cosmic Insight, you can just go triple tonic, magical footwear, always a safe setup. Attack speed, adaptive health per level, because you're a jungler, this is just the best clear speed possible. Another thing that I like doing on Diana, if you're going for the assassin setup, is Electrocute. You can go Relentless Hunter, same thing, you kinda wanna get in range with some movement speed. And then for the secondary, you can sort of take whatever you want, this is totally fine, Triumph is very strong on Diana. You can even go something like this if you want more scaling, if you want to build Rabadon earlier. But as long as you have the burst, this is also fine. You don't care about too much. Those are the runes. Let's continue with the items. Have this start. Root for the first legendary item choice. And then we go to boots. Plated steel caps. These are kind of like the best options, they multiply well with the health and shielding. Only against a lot of auto-attackers, I would go steel caps, and against a lot of CC, I would go many creatures. But when they don't have much CC or auto-attackers, you can go for Ionian Boost of Lucidity. Very cheap, more Ws, more Qs, there's just nothing wrong with it. This is kind of like a filler option. You can also go Sorcerer Shoes, but they're not super strong, so do it for like the burst damage builds. Ionian is just better for sustained fights. Now, similar to Ionian, you can also buy this if you think you're gonna stack it quickly, if you already got a lead, if you're snowballing a bit, it's just a greedier option. Again, when Mixer Tabbies are not looking too strong in the match, you can opt into Platinous Greaves. It gives you also sustain, which Diana doesn't have in her kit, so you can start healing off some jungle camps, some waves, turn fights around with Conqueror, Riftmaker, whatever. Pretty rare that this is good, but you just have to pay attention and you'll find windows to get value out of most situational items such as Gelatinous Greaves. Now let's talk about the damage options. This is offense, Riftmaker is just a stat check item. Never wrong to buy, you just have to consider alternatives that have different uses. So this is for sustained fights, DPSing, amazing. Riftmaker is just pretty much like buying a dead cap or buying Infinity Edge on an AD carry. It's just a really well-rounded item. Now if you want to go on the other side and focus on burst damage, then that's when you can replace this with Shadow Flame. Even if you didn't go Lich Bane, can still be correct to go into a more burst-oriented route. On the other hand, you have Bloodletter's Curse, which is once again more for sustained fights. Once they start building some magic resistance, you have some magic damage dealers on your team, you want to amplify their damage maybe. This makes you very tanky. It's almost a tank item for Diana. It makes your shield bigger from AP and health. Very good. And then, if you want to keep going the burst route, there's Void Stuff, there's Crypt Bloom for something a bit more in between, when you don't care that much about MR Shred, but you still want some burst damage. Then extra utility keeps you alive in fights. Then this Torment, you can still buy it at different points, but mostly against health stackers, so like Galio, Ornn, Cyan, Mundo. It's not that useful by itself because you could go Rift, you could go Bloodletter. These items just have more stats. Diana is just not the best champion at applying Liandry. You have to be a bit careful when you choose to buy this item. Another thing you can do is go Morello, but it's mostly just sitting an Oblivion Orb and upgrading it as your last item. Which you can also sell the Oblivion Orb if other team is buying reduction. It's gonna really depend on what your team does, what the enemy team comp is. If there's really too much healing, unfortunately, you'll have to buy Morello, but it's a cheap item and the stats are not bad. It actually has pretty much the same stats as any other HP health fighter item. Let's look at armor options. We are gonna, of course, build Zonia most of the time. And I want to make it clear that Diana has very strong AP ratios, so don't go into tank items if you don't have to. This is gonna be mostly for super specific comps where you can really get value out of Frozen Heart or Randuin. Zonia, of course, is just a staple. You can stall time, you have no escapes on the character, you can get another Pale Cascade, you can get another rotation, you can get a big engage, and counter certain effects, such as, you know, Z ultimate and whatnot. But if you're against a full team of auto attackers or 2 to 3 crit champions, you can start thinking about these items, though I would avoid tank items as much as possible on Diana, because she can deal a lot of burst damage, she has strong AP ratios across the board. Another thing you can do is build Unlink Despair, which is gonna be great against like a low damage, full melee comp where you are just drain tanking, you're a bit ahead, you're just sitting there and becoming immortal. Used to be somewhat popular on this champion. Can be a decent item, you just have to adapt and pay attention to what's going on. When it comes to MR items though, Abyssal Mask is pretty much the best item, because if you understand some maths, if you do some calculations, you'll realize that for most AP champions, if they can go melee range, Abyssal Mask does similar damage to an AP item, because this is a percentage which amplifies everything, while AP is just gonna give you a flat number slapped on the ratios that you have. Abyssal Mask just makes you a lot tankier, and is very cheap, can amplify teammates' damage. Yeah, most of the time if you want MR you should build this in my opinion. Of course you can still go Banshees if you wanna go more Assassin with Death Cap, and there are champions like Karthus, Blitzcrank that are pretty countered by spell shields. So nothing too bad about Banshee, it just does the job in certain spots, although pretty rare purchase. Now if you want to approach late game where you really want to be anti-burst and not get one-shot by AP Assassins or Syndra or Veigar, there is room to build Kenny Rukan sometimes, but only as a shock counter if you encounter multiple of these champions or their main threat is some kind of burst mage. Similarly, you can do Force of Nature against dot champions like Singed, Udyr, Brand, stuff like that. But I would never build Spirit Visage, because Spirit Visage is just not targeted enough. It's generalistic. It's gonna be good against AD, mixed damage. So at that point, you'd rather build a Bloodletter's Curse, a Shadow Flame, a Void Staff, a Death Cap. There's just no point to think about Spirit Visage, because it's not strong enough as a counter against magic damage or something. It's simply a well-rounded item, it has no place in a Diana build. Even though, you can shield a lot, you can heal a lot, but that's just not how you should think about the item. Now we can also have a look at Capstone, which would be Death Cap. What's the point of this category? It is simply to reinforce to you that these are the items that you should be looking to buy in late game. You multiply with hits or other items and stats. If you're not building any of these items in a full build on Diana, you're probably trolling. Death Cap has a place in every build, because not only it gives you a lot of damage, it also amplifies your durability. The W has a AP ratio. And you can buy it as early as your second item if you're getting large rods and stuff like that. Usually it's gonna be third minimum, and you wanna fit it into a full build most of the time. But sometimes if you really want to be super durable, because you don't really care that much about dealing extra damage, you're more of a frontliner, you can go Jaksho, and sometimes you can even buy both. There's gonna be a possibility in certain builds. On the other hand, you can also go Warmogs, because the HP ratio on W is, I think, higher than pretty much any tank. You are gonna get quite a bit of effective health, so if they have a lot of true damage penetration, champions like Darius, perfect example, or Wukong, you can go Warmogs, and it's also gonna scale with Dusk and Dawn, gonna scale with Riftmaker, so you're getting more healing, more AP, overall pretty underrated, misunderstood item, and Diana can use it in certain late game situations. Now, if you go to Snowball, besides Magi, which you can buy at any point, the Darks in the early game, you can also have a Storm Surge. What's the idea with Storm Surge? It simply accelerates everything. It's a cheap item. Imagine you are 7-0, 10-0 in the early game. Buy the Magi, buy the Storm Surge, you're gonna move around quick, one-shot everything, the items are cheap, they surprise enemies, you kill towers faster, you kill camps, objectives faster. It's just a way to accelerate, and it's just going to do its job. Another thing that I would say it's a bit more experimental. I did try it myself. It doesn't feel bad at all. It's actualized. So it's a buff for 8 seconds. It's a 1 minute cooldown. It doesn't say here. Which is very solid. It comes up all the time. For you to boost your shields, healing, and get about, I would say it's 40% CDR-ish. Not really equal to that, but you get a lot of CDR, and the damage increase is 17%, which is higher than any AP item. Like, it's more than Storm Surge Magic Pen, it's more than Shadow Flame Magic Pen, and even the damage increase you get in a full combo, I guess it can be sort of equal to that. But it's way cheaper, mana is not a wasted stat on Diana, nor is on Frozen Heart, and it can work. But just don't think it's something that you should be looking to build every game. It's simply a cheap spike. It can take enemies by surprise a bit, and I would only build these items when I'm really fed. Redemption, it's an AP item now. Most people have not realized it, so you have the AP, you have the burst damage, you combine it with your ultimate. It's very cheap, it makes you tanky, and it gives you a global tool, so you can have like a Soraka ult, use it on your teammates in side lane. There are a couple uses for it. It's definitely not a bad item on Diana. These things are a bit more niche, so if you want to keep it simple, don't try to build these items. I'll say they are for professionals. But in my opinion, they are very underrated. That's pretty much it with the guide. In the description, you can also find my League Classic channel. I posted my take on Cyan in Classic, which instead of AP cheese or crit cheese, have a reliable bruiser build mixing AD, attack speed, 40% CDR, you know, some ability power, stuff like that. Very interesting. So definitely check that out. Also check my VOD channel, which is Arcteos VODs, just a bunch of gameplay commentaries. And this is simply my main channel for guides. Don't forget to let me know what you would like to see next.